Chosen.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the second episode of the Caffeine Bros podcast with your hosts. I'm Asa. That's Jared. Two dudes passionate about fitness, love caffeine. Here we are. Jared, how you doing tonight, my man?
Doing all right, doing all right. Just chilling out here in lovely Arizona. 78 degrees, sun's out. Can't complain too much, How about yourself? How you doing up there in North Dakota?
Dude, it's so nice. High in -1 today, low in -10. No sun to be seen. A little bit today, but it's just so cold. But we're here. We're great. That's what these things are here for. Keep you nice, keep you going, keep me warm, keep me happy. Can't complain. This guy is a review for us tonight, as we had a bunch of people want us to try it. So shout out to them. You know who you are. Well, a couple sips. Everybody knows the rules, and then Jared will review this thing, huh?
Yes, sir.
All
Let's
right.
get after it.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll take it first here.
All right, you got it.
I'm gonna give this on like a S through F tier scale first. I think this is like a low B, high C. Don't hate me online for it. I think it's a good flavor, just not my favorite. A little bit of sour is nice, especially when it's coming out of the fridge and it's cold. It kind of hits a little bit better, so it's definitely
Yep.
a plus for it. Just not top 5 Ghost for me, unfortunately, but that's okay. There's a lot of good flavors of Ghost. I think we're gonna give it like a 6.8 out of 10, in my own opinion. Great flavor. I could drink it every day, just not my favorite. Jared, what about yourself?
I think I'll have to give it I think I'll usually go with as it is low B and low C, but I'll put it in the C just because it's consistent. You'd have if you wanted to. I think it's better than the Jolly Rancher Green Apple, in my opinion, by C4. I think the Ghost one is better. I'll put it at that 7 range, I think, for myself. I could drink it. I like the sour better, this Warheads one, than I do the C4 one. So I'll put it right in that C, but like a 7, on the dot.
I respect that, dude. All right, first review of many down on this page. As you see them and you want us to try them, DM us, shout us out, tag us in your Instagram stories. We love to try different energy drinks. We love to review energy drinks, hence why we're here. So definitely don't be afraid to continue to do that for us. Jared, what are we talking about today?
We're going to our topic today is motivation versus discipline. Going into this, we're talking about kind of like the feeling we have both, and motivation may be more on the hype side, where discipline's habit, and going into those topics, kind of ourself, and kind of relating into other situations throughout, life stuff and gym. How do you view your motivation versus discipline, Asa?
Yeah, so I mean, this is really big for me, and I think it's super simple, and it dwindles down to the fact that I think motivation is more the hype. Like, you kind of get built up on it, you get psyched by it, you get stoked to go see it, but discipline is what reinstills those habits. It's what kind of builds you into creating these things and doing great things, so that way when motivation does not stick around, you have the discipline to continue to let you fire on all cylinders to just do bigger things and continue to chase your ultimate goal. What about yourself?
I agree. I think motivation comes and goes, but the discipline keeps you on track. Like whether your diet, your lifting, your day-to-day life. I think overall that it has it's really good things to have both, but discipline at the end of the day is what's going to keep you consistently coming back to everything over motivation in the long run. Do you have any stories that you're going on with the motivation versus discipline that you faced, in your fitness journey, and all that really stand out to you?
Yeah, I think me personally, there's a couple, but I'll just go over one because I'm sure we'll discuss some others as we go through this episode. But I
Yep.
think just starting back from that beginning when I was extremely overweight at about 15 years old, I think at that moment understanding, and I didn't right away, but I definitely cultivated it and learned it, that I was motivated right after that doctor's visit, but then I quickly understood a week later, a week and a half later, I have to continue to do this if I want to see a greater goal. And I think that's what's super crucial to our audience to understand, and why we want to talk about this today is it's motivation is huge. It's nice. It's great. It's that pretty little thing you see that keeps you wanting to go. But just as
Yeah.
pretty as it is, it doesn't always stick around, and you kind of need to understand that and cultivate a discipline, and you need to have a routine, and you need to be able to follow that, so that way when the motivation isn't there, you still stay on your goals and you still continue to work towards the things that you want to make you great. What about yourself? Do you have any
I
stories?
agree. I agree with you. Yeah, yeah, make sure you stick to that. Like starting back to my thing, like I wasn't uh I knew like I always kind of fell off, like 3 months, I'd kind of start that like high school. I had a little stint of like working out a little bit, and then Thanksgiving came around, and I was always kind of like the Thanksgiving break when I was going to school, whether high school or college, sorry, were always kind of spots that I always hit like that barrier where like, okay, that take this break or whatever, and I never get back on track again after that. So the when I started and I've been on ever since was in college there when I first started. Like I knew I needed to get a membership for the week that school was closed because I always fell off on Thanksgiving week. And having a gym to go to during this break that you got from school and stuff like that kept me more disciplined, and I was more motivated to go because I had a spot to go, but I was disciplined on going to the gym still because I knew I didn't want to be that overweight guy again, or lose. Like I was at the time I was losing, but I was like, I don't want to be back, where I was that 3 months that I actually put the time into doing it prior to that. So I didn't want to lose that progression that I made at that time. And I think that's where I was more like disciplined on that. But I was motivated to myself to like keep going because like I don't want to be that big again. I don't want to be like the 3X Carhartt shirt anymore. But
Yeah.
that really kept me going with that. Do you think when you started, was it more the weightlifting side of things or your diet that you got nutrition side of things? Was that tougher for where you work? So you talked about your doctor told you, or vice versa for me, I just wasn't happy with what I seen in the mirror. I didn't
Yeah.
really had never told I got any health issues or anything like that. So it's going to be a different mindset switch, I feel like, for both of us, right? you know where were you sitting on that?
Yeah, and I think the initial answer to your question on that is I think it's a very dynamic duo is how that kind of works. Long answered though, I think when I started, truthfully, it was diet because you have to think 15-year-old kid, parents are making dinner every night, school has food at lunch. You have to choose to eat something different and have those resources to do something different outside of just going back to confining on the ways of okay, I'm going to eat what's in front of me. I'm just going to eat until I'm like full, not necessarily eat until what I need to eat type deal. And I think that was my biggest struggle per se at the beginning. But I would also argue that as I've progressed on my fitness journey, there's been times where getting to the gym has been way harder than I could have ever imagined. And it was just so easy to say, okay, I'm gonna eat this thing of chicken and rice, but I don't want to get in my vehicle and drive 5 minutes down to the gym. And I think it's extremely important to understand that as you progress through these challenges that you deal with, you're gonna have different things that might pop up, but it's just always important to know that you can overcome them, and you need to keep kind of that hard mindset on it that you will overcome them to allow you to keep chasing those goals. What about you? Was it more food? Was it more gym? What was it for you?
I think it was more gym. Going to the food wasn't too bad because I was a big bear guy. You don't have a problem eating, what
That's
I mean?
true.
But like eating healthier is a different story. But um, getting the food in, like, no, I knew I needed to eat, but like getting myself to the gym, like there's like when I first started, I always talk about it took me 3 months to kind of get in the groove of it when I talked about our first episode. And I had my friend that was chirping in my ear about, hey, you gotta go check this trainer. And I was kind of getting bored after school of not doing anything other than just going to class.
Yeah.
Didn't know anybody, going to college and stuff like that. Like that guy that told me I went to high school with him, but never said a word to him until we were in college. And here he's my first training, partner as far as lifting goes. But like I kind of went down there, like so you have a day. I think I started 3 days. It was like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But then I would go down there. I started going down there more and more, and I think that's when I started getting into the gym habit a little bit more. And we were talking about eating and stuff like that, and this kind of comes into the discipline factor we were talking to. Is like like a lot of people I think they're starting or they already are. They get kind of nervous eating the same around people. I think like because we encountered that with work and stuff like that. You guys are eating that again. Like I know you were always a chicken and rice. I do a lot of those breakfast bowls and things like that.
Yeah.
Like the ground beef and eggs and like some sort of potato kind of deal. And I do. We always eat the same thing. And I think some people are getting when they that discipline, they let other people kind of think the way they do about them because they're eating the same stuff, not knowing. I know I have a buddy that's in construction. He eats ground beef and rice all the time. His coworkers don't understand why he's doing it. Well, he's doing it overall for his discipline side of things to
Yeah.
keep where he wants to go for his motivation and stuff. Like he's motivated to get there, but his discipline keeps him in line to keep eating those meals. But I think too many people think what other people think about it. Like I used to do this where, Minnesota's minus whatever right now, in -1 or 2 degrees. I used to warm up my meals in we had a microwave in like the cafeteria area. I'd go warm my meals up. I'd go out to my Jeep and go eat my meals there because I was always worried about people were watching me eat the same thing all the time and worried
Yeah.
about other people are thinking. Now I'm older, I really don't care. But like at the time, starting off, I used to think, man, this is such a weird. Like people probably think I'm weird. I'm eating the chicken, potatoes, or steak, and like I always kind of bounce between steak and rice, and stay, chicken and rice, or steak and potato, like those kind of things, kind of quick on lunch. But I could get a lot of protein and carbs in, and I can go train. And usually I made up at night for whatever I needed, fruit, vegetable, whatever. Because I'm traveling for school as well, because I didn't live, there. So like I was worried about that. But I remember eating out in my car, just thinking like, man, I don't want like other people to judge me for what I'm eating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'd be sit out there in my car and eat, no matter how cold it was. Go sit there
Yeah.
warm that Jeep. But that food probably got cold fast because being out in that car.
No kidding.
But I made sure to get that in because I was so like I didn't want to be back to where I was when I was that big, and I was gonna do whatever it takes to kind of do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that side of the discipline when it comes to like that nutrition and things like that, I think plays a huge role too. Going into that, but I don't know whether people perceive you as getting into that. But have you ever encountered anything like that, or do you ever felt you felt that way too going into that?
Yeah, I think before I go through that, just to address your point a little bit, because I think it's really crucial. A lot of people do understand that like it's a very emotional based feeling, motivation that is. Just because the way it can come, the way it can go, it's literally all a feeling. You need to be sure you're on top of how that happens and how that works. And with those feelings come those things of like I'm gonna sit in my vehicle because I don't want to be judged. I still want to chase this goal though. And I think, yeah, we ran into that a bunch, and I think it comes with self preparation and just understanding and like self awareness, kind of like to your initial story. If
Yeah.
you wouldn't have been aware enough to understand, I need to go to the gym on this week of Thanksgiving because I've been messing up consistently with that. So you made the change to then help attain your goal and keep working on it. And a lot of people don't do that, and that's where that hiccup then begins because it can become a spiral downward of, well, I didn't get to this point again. I knew I was going to stop here, instead of how can I alleviate this problem and then continue to grow around it and work towards the next step.
Yeah, I agree. I think that having that plan in place, which causes like a structure, in your life,
Yeah,
because I think like it just kind of lead into discipline, how it plays like a role in our lives and stuff, right?
yeah,
We're always taught at a young age to get structure, whether you went to, middle school, high school, college, work. Some people didn't go to college, so that's the reason I bring up working and things like that. But like we always were kind of taught structure and stuff like that, and their structure looks different every time with age. I mean, everything you start off like high school, they kind of teach you how to be a schedule from 7 to 3:30, 3:30, whatever. You kind of learn how to do that, and then you at night you got to make sure, okay, I'm gonna section off an hour or two for homework because I got reading class, math class. It kind of gets you that way too, and it gets you like working at those things. Same with college. You're structuring now. Not only you might have a class at 7 a.m. At 7 p.m. What do you do in that middle part of the day? Now you're not used to a 7 to 3 structure, but it teaches you kind of how to adapt to that. But your discipline stays in there too as well, because you're following a certain structure, which I think correlates a little bit with when you get into the fitness side of things too, because you're creating a structure for yourself essentially. You're making sure the eating is there, the lifting is there, those kind of things. So I think it completes like a structure of your day to day, along with obviously we all work and stuff like that too. But I think that just adds an additional structure. I think it comes easier that way, that we're able to structure our life a little bit to kind of mirror stuff we did growing up, through school, through all those other things as well. So
yeah. I think to your point that that's a really crucial thing that most people don't think about is when you look at how much
mhm.
structure you already have in your life, regardless if that's a work schedule or regardless if that's what you do in your free time. It's extremely important to just have any sort of fitness programmed into that. Like a non-negotiable piece of your day is programmed for that. If it's an hour before you go to work, if it's 35 minutes after work, whatever it may be that gets you moving and gets your body working and gets the stressors moving, just to get that healthier goal and that healthier you attained, I think is just beyond crucial because, like you said, all our life we've had a schedule of some sort, regardless if we think it's a schedule or not. And it's just
Yeah.
important to be able to kind of adapt that and adjust that so that way we can make sure we still be successful regardless with any hiccups that may come in.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like having that structure kind of can keep you in line if you structure your goals into that as well. Like that's going to be a huge thing to keeping you on track and stuff moving forward, especially in fitness. Like some days, like you said, you might not be feeling the go, whether that's a little extra caffeine that gets you through the day because you can use it as a tool more than, use it as, just straight up, as a drink. You can use it as a tool to get you kind of going if you're not feeling it those days. And, um, kind of give that temporary boost, but overall, that discipline is what's going to, at the end of the day, that's what's going to keep you in line and that structure overall, like moving forward. Because like I said, that's something we've been taught as a young age is that discipline portion of it, just showing up to these things. It's kind of you're showing up for yourself, though. Once you're past that, I think, and you're in that work field,
Mm-hmm.
you're working 9 to 5, 7 to 3, 8 to 4, whatever it might be, midnight to whatever. That's where your structure starts, and then the rest of it kind of comes into play after that. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think the big thing with that too is like understanding how much it is discipline because you just need to do it regardless of how you feel. Like you owe it to
hmm
yourself to show up if you're tired, to show up if you're mad, to show up if you're beyond excited, just to prove that to yourself, to continue to not only chase your goal, but to promote your own self-esteem and to continue to just grow your own positive thoughts about yourself and continue to develop you as a person and who you are and what you want to be. And that's not just only in like the fitness realm. That's finance. That's maybe you want to take up a new hobby. It's whatever you want to do. You owe it to yourself to continue to do it, to continue to work on it, to continue to just become better with it. So that way you can look back and say, hey, look at where this got me, and look at how much I can do, and look at where I can continue to go.
I agree. What do you think the most discipline you've had to show on yourself, whether it's this year, 5 years ago, your first competition, your bodybuilding show? Like, what was the first like thing you thought tested you most discipline wise coming into either the gym or not, or moving forward? That life maybe even, but
Yeah.
like where were you? What was a good point that you say tested you on that?
Yeah, I think being young and naive, the discipline wasn't an issue necessarily just because I was wanting to try this and wanting to see what it could be and wanting to push myself. I think ultimately when I took on bodybuilding as a pastime and wanting to compete and wanting to be serious, I think that's when that really took a hit because people, if you're not in the sport, you obviously most people have a respect for it or understand some of it, but it's a very, very, very exhausting sport to be in. Come the grind. The first couple months of prep maybe aren't too bad depending on like where you're sitting, what you look like, what your coach is doing, but those last couple weeks can really take a toll on you, and it's really up to you and your own discipline and self-respect to continue to like show up and perform and continue to handle business as it should be. So that way, when you step on that stage and you get that gratifying feeling of completing this, it also reaffirms that you can do it and you never said no to yourself.
What was your thoughts going through there when you were in that deep part of your prep? Like what was the thing you were telling yourself to get through? I mean, like if you're that tired, it's easy to come home and just sit down and like, okay, I'm gonna sleep or nap or, and then maybe when you get up, you don't necessarily feel like going because you did sleep or nap because you thought it was gonna give you a little energy maybe to go to the gym. But what was the going through your head? What were you telling yourself for discipline or even motivation just to start it? To you in that point.
Yeah,
Do you remember?
yeah, and I mean, it was really simple because there's a lot of times because I worked full time and went to school full time my first bodybuilding
Yep.
prep, so my days were extremely busy. I just at the end of the day I continued to remind myself that you don't have a choice. This is what you want to do. This is what you're working at. This is who you're trying to become, and you're not gonna ever attain a piece of that if you don't do the work right now and look at the results later. And I think it just acquainted to me putting my head down a little more, working a little bit harder, having a little more oomph behind my actions because it allowed me to just enable that thought of like this is all part of the journey. This is all going to build to who I'm going to become and who I'm going to be able to look back at and say I did this and this is where it built me into this piece and who I became with this angle. So
Yeah. I think that's a good point to touch on there because, like, sometimes, people that don't compete or haven't competed might not know what the mindset's like at that point,
yeah,
and the other people that have competed can kind of maybe relate to you on the same level. So I wanted to see where you're at with that, like mine, like off the top of my head, the one that I had to do was 2 years ago when we're building shields down here, like I was one of the first early movers to come down. We're working a lot of 6 to 6s, 7 to 6, whatever the day might have been. We were there pretty much all day. And it was 3 months, I think 4 months, we were kind of working everything straight. Don't get me wrong, we had more than just myself and a couple other guys there after a certain amount of time. But like we were moving, we're helping like hoist the airplane up or lifting certain things. I remember we had to deliver some whiteboards and stuff like that. Or was constantly lifting, moving, doing certain things. Getting these like kind of going day to day like that. And I gotta still tell myself like, hey, I gotta go to the gym even though I might be tired. Now, like the thing I did discipline wise to keep myself in line was I had a lot of that stuff ready and I didn't sit down. The biggest thing I think you run into the problem with is think people sit down too fast. Like when they get home, they sit down on the couch, they sit down wherever, and they either doom scroll, turn on the TV, and then that's kind of where I think the loss of motivation comes in.
Yeah.
The discipline you got to tell yourself, like I try and do, if like creating a habit for myself of coming in the door, switch clothes right away, and then I eat standing up so I don't have to sit down and like stuff like this. This is something I do though. And I think it's going to work for everybody. Then I do that, eat, already have my gym bag kind of ready by the door, and then I like have my pre-workout and creatine out for myself kind of there too, so it doesn't give me an excuse really to go around my house, go anywhere else other than just you got your stuff, you got home from work, go lift quick, get it out of the way, still get your time, and then you come back, eat and relax and enjoy the rest of your evening instead of, kind of hemming and hawing about it and then, not going. Because it's very easy. I'm sure you can attest to this too. It's very easy to come home after a work day at work and be like, I don't feel like going. But I had to tell myself that I have to go to the gym because, yeah, it was sucks at 7 o'clock at night. I'm taking pre workout. You got to be back next day at 7 o'clock, but, or 6 o'clock or whatever, what the day, whatever it would have been that time. But it's just one of those things I knew I had to get it done. I couldn't let it slip because the longer you let it slip, the more excuses you make, the harder it is to get back into that routine. And that was probably the one that stuck with me that recently I've had a challenge with that. Like there's a few days here and there you kind of go through it, but I think overall challenge wise, that's probably the biggest one because like I said, you're lifting Ferris wheel parts in there and we're getting that stuff coming in. Like you're like when we're just moving all sorts of stuff like that around there. And every day was just a different thing. Some days a lot more walking than others. Some days a lot more lifting than others, like where you got to get I remember like we had the fridges in for the break room. We had to flip those up off a pallet. It took 4 or 5 of us to get the thing up,
Yeah.
because it's a big, industrial fridge kind of thing. So it's like those things, like you might not feel like it after moving stuff like that all day, but you kind of got to get in there and just tell yourself that you're doing it for like common cause. No matter how many times people hit you with, oh, no, you don't have to hit your workout today.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
very infamous line of you lifting stuff up. But I think that those things kind of help you. Like that kind of kept me disciplined, though, knowing I still have to go in, even though I worked that long of a day.
Yeah.
There's other people that might work longer too that still get in, to the gym and stuff like that. But their discipline helps out a lot.
Yeah.
With that.
I think, and going back to that point of it too, not only do you owe it to yourself, but the amount of respect you gain for yourself as you do that and you continue to develop that. And that's such a crucial thing to grow. And I think within that, though, one of the big things I personally took away from it, and I'm sure some of the other listeners will say too, is you had like a disciplined system in place, and you still do. Your gym bag's packed, so you're ready to go. You have a plan set, so when you get home, there's no distractions or excuses. It's, I know what I'm going to go do regardless of what's going on around me, and I'm going to execute this at a high level so I can ensure I'm successful. And that sometimes for people, even if they don't need their gym bag packed, if they don't have one, it's making sure your shoes are by the door, like ready to go. Making sure you know what you're going to work out so you don't have to like sit around and wonder what's going to happen or what's going to be hit. Just basically taking out all those mental blocks so you can go perform and do the thing you need to do.
I agree. And I think that too, they need to, if you get to the point where you are staying consistent though, too, you got to know that you are like your mental toughness versus burnout as well. I think you run into that issue while discipline too. Like you got to talk about both sides of things. I think that like I incorporate deload week every about 2 months or so. Like I'll incorporate, like I just got off one personally myself this last week. My family's in town. I also found some balance because we ate out and did some certain things like that. Like went to a place to eat, either got some food, brought it home, vice versa or whatever. But sometimes you need a deload to kind of keep yourself from burning out. Because I know when I was younger, I would always try to push it with powerlifting. I didn't have anyone really watching over me. Like you have a coach for bodybuilding. I didn't really have. I was just kind of going off a program I found, kind of pushing through it. Like I wanted to get in the gym because I was like I was wanting to be there. So I was like, there's certain days I probably overworked myself, and I give myself plenty of time to recover because then my weights aren't quite where I would need them to be and things like that. So there's an opposite side of like that where you have the mental toughness versus like burning out. I mean, did you have any either moments like that you had to push through or like burnout you really had that at all? Or 'cause mine was mostly during my powerlifting phase that I had. Like a lot of times when it came to bench press, deadlifts, I would get kind of burnt out. Like I like overhead press was always pretty good, but squat were always decent enough. But like those were kind of like the ones that I always kind of had an issue with, where I felt like I kind of overworked it a little bit with that.
Yeah, I a couple things to add before I tackle that. I do think on that note that like still showing up consistently will always be a better answer than trying to give it your all on a Monday so you can skip Tuesday through Friday. I think it comes to you to find that balance within yourself and what you like and what keeps you going to be able to push yourself for like a whole week rather than just get going really hard at the beginning of the week to the point where you don't want to show up at the end. Same thing with like nutrition. Even when that mind or that carrot's not dangling in front of you to like want to keep being the best you, still trying to find a reason
Yeah,
to envision that it's there. Still keeping that greater goal in front of you. And I mean, I agree with mental toughness and burnout as well. It's really crazy. You just came off a deload week. So did I. We had no discussion on that prior to this podcast. So the fact that we both kind of did that without knowing, crazy.
yeah,
But I think it's extremely important to know when to push your body harder and then to also know when it needs to recover. It's
yeah.
very crucial because the last thing you need is an injury or you need something to hurt yourself or you need something to take you out of the game to to basically stall you from going where you like. And you need to also recognize it. And I think with your powerlifting, this is a great example. The difference between like productive discomfort, so like you're tearing those muscles down, they're gonna come back, they're gonna get stronger, they're gonna grow, versus a destructive overload where you're to the point where you train really hard on Monday, you go to hit those lifts next Monday, you can't hit them again, even remotely near it because your body is just worn down. So I think it's really important to like self-reflect in that note and be willing to give yourself that time just to understand that at the end of the day, this week I'm going to take off isn't going to hurt me because I've been working towards this goal for 3 years, 3 months, 4 months, whatever it may be. And you're not going to lose that progress as long as you're training mindfully in that time period, regardless if it's the same amount of like training.
I agree. I think social media plays a role in that too. They see a lot of their favorite like lifters and stuff like that go through and like they may be posting so much or they're lifting every day. A lot of these guys are on stuff too. I mean, like they recover a lot faster than you and I, because we're not, but they're, and I'm not discrediting any of their work, but they're able to do some of that stuff where someone that, a 16, 17-year-old might not be able to do. We don't know what they're doing off camera either. Like some of the stuff could be already loaded up, ready to go, and they have 2 rest days or something like that, or they say they're doing this because they're getting paid by whoever to do whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that got like gonna get skipped over because they see their favorite person like doing this, and then they maybe don't say mention they do a deload week or they take the time off to do certain things.
Yeah. I think it's
And I think that's a big part of that. But
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to your note to kind of like make sure those rose-colored glasses aren't always on. Like make sure you're looking at things from a perspective on both sides and understanding that these people are great people that you use them as a motivation or as an influence to like continue to train or train a certain way. But understanding that you need to also take into account how you feel and how you react and how you respond to things. So that way you can ultimately be the best version of you because you're not going to be said influencer and you can attain goals extremely close or very similar to them. But you also need to remember you're working on yourself. You want to be the best version of yourself, and that requires you to understand yourself and keep working towards it.
it's true. Well, I got to ask you now, since we're on this topic of people, influencer, and like all that, who was like your favorite, like, or who are your 3 motivational guys that you kind of look towards, like, in the fitness industry? Like, I guess, like, influencer, bodybuilders, past, present. Like, who are we going with your 3? Is there anyone like that stands out really much? You're kind of enjoying lately, or just overall, who got you into it, and things like that. Coming up, we're on the topic. May as well touch base on it,
Dude,
right?
absolutely. And the first one is he's more of an influencer like nowadays, I'll say. And I'm gonna definitely either butcher his last name or not say the complete version of it just because I only know it from like his Instagram handles and stuff. His name's like Cody Burleson. I can't quite remember. He goes by C Burr. Like he's a raw athlete. I really respect his hustle and his honesty. Like he's very like I'm gonna show you what my day looks like. If I'm sick, here's what I'm doing. Like I'm not just this guy that doesn't have a bad day. Like I consistently can show you what each side of the pendulum looks like and how I continue to try to perform around that. So I really respect him and I really like him as an athlete. And then I mean 2 and 3 are going to be old school for sure because that's what I love. So I got to go Arnold. How can you not love Arnold? And then I think Lou
Yeah.
Ferrigno, like they had such less variety for equipment, but they had such great mindsets and they had such great ability to constantly say, I'm going to train to my max level regardless of what I have and regardless of what I'm doing. And
Mhm.
you, I just have an outright respect for that and the way they trained and the way they looked and the way they performed and the way they always kept their foot on the gas. They were very offensive. You know, they never really had that downtime. They just constantly tried to keep improving and keep working and keep being the better version of themselves. What about you, dude?
Yeah, I think that Lou Ferrigno and Arnold had one of the first kind of rival kind of thing in the bodybuilding world because like Lou was always trying to chase Arnold. Arnold was obviously getting better, things like that. So I think it kind of kept them both motivated to do better. And that was back in the day too, where a lot of those guys trained together. Too like a
Yeah.
lot of them trained together, and so like, they see each other on a day-to-day basis and stuff like that. So those guys kind of kept each other motivated and disciplined for sure. I would say my three right now, obviously Arnold. He's the first one that got me going. I watched Pumping Iron when I was fresh into lifting,
Heck yeah.
and that was kind of like the big one that kind of like I was just kind of cool to watch. Like like because he like when he talked about how lifting wasn't like a very big thing, and I feel like lifting wasn't a huge thing probably until like 2014, 15, 16, right in that range, where it started gaining a lot of traction with all the new different pre-workouts. Like muscle and fitness magazines and stuff are starting to go way into like a social media side of things for like those kind of things. So everyone's recording stuff in their phones maybe now and things like that, like, so I think like for them to kind of talk about that, Arnold's point of view on that was always kind of cool in that movie. Bum was probably my two, which a lot of people get like that's nowadays that's their kind of motivation guy. I thought I think it was after the fourth Olympia when he did a speech showing his kind of it's okay to be vulnerable about certain things and like open up like being human, wasn't giving you like a blanket like so and so answer, like thanks for this, thanks for that. He like actually talked about how he was feeling and stuff like that. And any of his videos you watch, he talks about being present and being able to talk with his wife or who talk with his friends about how he is and stuff like that. And he seems to have such a much better perspective on life because he's not sugarcoating anything for anybody, and he's just kind of telling people how it is, and which I really enjoy because I'm kind of the same way. I don't like to do that with people. And also third is Jay Cutler. Jay, back in the day, I think him and Ronnie Coleman going back and forth was always fun to watch and like go back and watch old videos on YouTube and stuff like that. Him training and stuff like that with those like he'd have a sweatband tied around his head or something, cut off. He'd be out in the since he like snow going to the gym at 2 a.m. or whatever. It was always just kind of cool something with him. And then like nothing beats that quad stomp floor that gets viral everywhere when he was taking on Ronnie Coleman in that Olympia there. So I think like those kind of things too, like he's kind of stuck with me on that. Now he's a little bit different transition now that he's no longer bodybuilding. He's a little less strict on a lot of the stuff that he does and posts about. But before, it was just kind of cool. He was such a driven guy to go forward, like going for that win against Ronnie Coleman. And just like he was doing anything he could just to make himself better, which is like you gotta respect his discipline to that grind. I think if I remember like he had a YouTube video. He never had KFC in his, like I think it was like 15 years or something like that. And he had a YouTube video the first time having it or something like that. Didn't even know what to order or anything. So it's like his discipline on that stuff to get where he wanted to go was very impressive. How he stuck to everything, knowing that was his job, knowing that's what he was going for, and he wanted to be Mr. Olympia. So I think he was another one that really stood out to me with his work ethic and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I think it's super huge and always important, to have people you look up to and people you want to like chase and people you want to attain because that's once again that's what helps fuel that fire in everybody. I also believe though that like the motivation kind of comes after the action too, I think it's extremely crucial that a person at the end of the day has to decide within themselves, I'm going to like put my bootstraps on, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to show up, I'm going to prove to myself that this is what it's going to take to become successful. Because after you start, I feel like that's when that motivation actually really fires, and it's the consistency within yourself and proving it to yourself that just kind of builds that momentum that then allows you to continue to kind of grow towards that too.
I agree. So I'm gonna touch base on this a little bit too, because um, so a lot of people have ways like I don't know how you go about this, but like keeping yourself on track with a goal, right? Like motivated with the discipline and stuff like that. So like for me, I'm like more of a pitcher guy. So I like always kind of quit like myself before and after. Anyone that follows me on Instagram sees it a lot. It might be a little annoying to some people, it might not be. It might be motivational, but I use that for myself to just remind myself, because some days, you maybe feel like, I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere, right? But those pictures next to each other shows you that that work happened, and you're still going, you're trending in the right direction. Whether you have great days, bad day, all that moving forward. But it's showing that next to each other as proven result for yourself. And you can just remind yourself, like, hey, that discipline that you got, you might not be where you want to be, because I think that's one of the things of lifting. I don't think we're ever satisfied with something, 'cause there's always a new goal, a new thing to chase, which I think keeps people coming back for that are very dedicated to it. But that's another topic for another day. But um, that, I think, for myself, I'm more of like that visual side by side thing like that. And like, I kind of like have like little goals here and there, like, working on pull ups and dips and things like that. Being a bigger guy, they're always kind of tough movements to do. But I think that for me, tracking my keep myself motivated and disciplined, I kind of, that side by side is kind of what gets me through it. Seeing those pictures of everything for myself, and like, sometimes you share it on social media to help, maybe motivate some people, like, hey, if I can do it, you can kind of do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But do you have any like ways that you like to do it, or anyone that taught you anything, like watching whatever, listening to whatever,
Yeah.
anything along those lines?
So I will give my initial shout out here to Andy Frisella. If you guys don't know who that is, look him up. He's got a podcast too. Uh, Easily my favorite guy to listen to when I need some answers, need some self reflecting. He has what's called a power list. It's a 5 tasks every day that you need to complete to become successful or more successful towards what you're doing. I've implemented that in my daily life now for over 3 years, and it's as simple as drink this gallon of water every day to the most monotonous task that I might not want to do, but I keep it on my sheet because it keeps me accountable. And until it becomes a daily habit, it can't go away. So, I mean, shout out to him because that's truly changed my life. And if you guys want to learn more about it, like I said, go tune into him, go check him out. Always happy to plug him on a podcast, I'll tell you that. And I will also shout out my fiance. She has some awesome ways of like kind of doing reaffirmations on herself and making sure she's chasing goals. She loves writing things down. If it's on her kitchen table, if it's in the bathroom, on the mirror, on a piece of paper taped to it, by the bedroom, you name it, she's got it everywhere. And I think that's also crucial because it revisits that piece of her brain every time she looks at it, regardless if we're eating dinner, if she's getting ready for work in the morning, if she's waking up out of bed, going to sleep, you name it. She's rereading these goals. She's rereading these affirmations about herself, making herself continually feel better and grow and pursue and keep that hunger almost there, and just always remind herself of like, hey, I've done this, but I want to continue to grow and do this, and I'm reminding myself I can because I am worthy of doing this. And I just cannot stress enough how important it is to reiterate to yourself how far you've come, because that's going to ultimately be a big driver in your future too, and allow you to continue to chase your goals more than anything else ever will.
I agree. Yeah, I think having that there, and like everyone, I think it's good to have a couple different viewpoints. I'm glad you shared that with like that, because like some people might do better with me, like what I do, and some people might do better with what you do. So it's good to hear other people's point of views and how they keep themselves going. And like, if anyone else has anything else too, obviously in our comments, or they want to throw something on Instagram or something for us too, how you like to stay motivated and disciplined, like with that side of things, keep your goals in line. Always feel free to share and tag us with it too, because you never know who you're going to reach and touch out to. That's like too, kind of, not to get totally off the subject with that, but like that's kind of like, you never know who you're talking to in the gym, what they can do for you, like moving forward, or in life too sometimes. So, like, you never know what insight they can give you to be better at something else. So never shun anyone away from that. You never know what you're going to learn from somebody. That's a big thing too,
Yeah.
you know, moving forward. And then two, touching base, like two, like the gym, being motivated and disciplined. You keep yourself motivated being around like-minded people. So a lot of us will make friends, people within the gym too, because they're disciplined just like we are, showing up every day, and seeing them kind of motivates and gives a little extra social aspect of the thing too, which can kind of keep you coming back to, because you feel more welcome going into an environment like that. And I think like some people sometimes too, when they get into that, they're just like, they think that everyone's kind of like watching them, whatever, and necessarily like, so you feel more welcome seeing these people on a regular basis. A lot of people aren't, like, they're more like, they're nice compared to what they look like a lot of times.
Yeah,
You talk to
absolutely.
people, so having those friends around, like, like we always had, I had a good group, like at my old gym in Minnesota, a good group of guys that talk down to here, like want to go to Muscle Factory and stuff like that here, and But like having that around is always kind of nice, knowing you're going to see some people that are like-minded like you. They're also on their own grind, going after whatever that might be, bodybuilding or just general fitness, or they're training for a race, or they're doing, something, something like that. It always helps too to have those people, because then they kind of, having that like-minded goal in mind can keep you motivated, and like just knowing like, damn, these guys are motivated too and disciplined just like I am. Maybe you want to catch up with them and do something. Maybe they keep you going. It's enough like you see them every day and they get you. Come on, let's get this PR or something like that. So simple, like something simple like that
Yeah.
can get it really going.
Yeah, I
So.
think I think it's kind of a hidden gem, truthfully, when you get into like the community in which you train, because you see these people just about every day if you're consistently going, and it's not only the motivation, but they hold you accountable. You build friendships out of it. Like you build so much more than just a person that you see at the gym out of these relationships from the gym. So I think it's
Yeah.
kind of an underrated thing is the people that you become close with at the gym, because they really help grow you as a person and your thoughts and your capabilities. So I think that's a really huge piece.
Yeah. I think my two of them, I mean, like we had such a good fitness community. I felt like at when I fitness for 10 in Mankato there where I went before this, like we had a lot of guys. I mean, like there's all ages, everyone there, the college town there. But like I can remember like we always had a group, you're always talking to somebody in there because there was just something, we were all sharing a common goal. I remember there's people like my buddy Gunner, who was a trainer there at one point. Parker was one of his clients. Well, all my friends now with that, Ryan, Jake, and Sarah, and couple of these guys like Carson and Alex, these guys that I've all met kind of throughout the time there later on this last few years before I moved here and stuff. But like, I was like, we'd always have, it was like one of those things, it was almost like clockwork. You knew when everyone was kind of coming in, but it was motivating. Like you hit them up, hey, what are you doing today? Like, let's get after it. Maybe you go help them out, like set with a spot or something like that. But then you're kind of helping everyone reach a common goal, which also makes you feel a little bit better too. Because not only you're focusing on yourself, but you're helping other people accomplish the same mindset as you going into that too. So it
Yeah.
always helps.
Yeah, and I mean, I think ultimately too, on top of that, just kind of like snowballing everything we've kind of discussed, I just think it's
Hmm.
extremely important to continue to know your why, to have your
Hmm.
reasoning and purpose. And like we said, if that's in a picture form, if that's written down, if that's just something you always tell yourself every morning, whatever that may be, because ultimately the visible goal is a goal you're going to achieve. And it allows you to continue to see that, and it allows you to continue to vision that, and it allows you to continue to chase it. And it almost helps keep a more found fire under you, because you're constantly reminding yourself about where you're going, and it also allows you to reflect a little bit on where you've been and help you just build that better image and continue to develop as a person to achieve whatever goals you set out.
I agree. I think the why is why people fail. That's just about like that's the show. Like we're not gonna keep it that way, but like it's the why is where people fail. If you don't have the right why to keep you motivated, going, discipline going in there, you're not going to get very far. And like you got to keep reminding yourself that. Whether you have to face the hard truth, whether it's like like you said, the doctor told you, or you don't want to wear that 3X shirt or whatever. You don't want to be you don't want to be super skinny. You want to be put on 10 pounds of muscle or something like that. You remember why you're doing it. It's ultimately for yourself, and that's something you challenge yourself to it. And like you can kind of treat it like like if you're in the gym though too, you got to kind of push yourself through it, like you're almost doing like treating everything like it's kind of like a PR in the gym almost. You don't know until you try. You got to keep going. That's a lot of things in life. Whether you're going for a job, if you don't get it, you go back, reset, you work at it a little bit, maybe you try it again or a different position. Maybe that wasn't a good fit. But if you treat life like a little like foundation of that, whether for runners it could be really as easy as running a mile or something like that. But like for lifters, if a PR correlates with you, if you find something that correlates with your life and a hobby that you enjoy or something like that, for me, it's lifting. And I always kind of look at life like you're hitting a PR. Like I don't know where I stand with this thing until I try it. If I fail, I fail. But it also gets you better at learning to fail. If you learn to fail, then you're able to grow with mindset. That's where you're at and where you need to be to keep improving. So if you have something that you can correlate to your life that is like that, for me, like I said, it's the gym PR. I'm sure you could do something too with that. It's like you don't know until you fail. Like if you talk to somebody, you don't know if you're going to be friends with them or not, or get along with them or not until you talk to them, right? But then if it doesn't work out, you got to go back and you either try something else or that's not for you, But having that like ability to do that is huge. I think if you can find something to correlate to calm yourself down on those things and be like, okay, assess and reflect on that. I
Absolutely.
think those are huge things.
Yeah, and I think to touch on this for just a moment here, I think a growth mindset is the most underrated tool you can have in your toolbox as a person, because a growth mindset not only teaches you that failures aren't the end of the world, they teach you that they are lessons that you can now learn from and then develop into a new task or a new piece or a new attribute to help develop you into the next level of who you want to be. There's no there's no hiccup in life that you run into that's going to end it ultimately. It's up to you to determine how you can learn from that and grow onto that to become that next best version and to continue to chase that next best version. A lot of people sometimes like to account a growth mindset to kind of being a little corny, but I believe if you can use the growth mindset as a tool for yourself, it will help harbor that discipline as a backbone foundation for you and allow you to grow and develop and continue to just pursue the best version of yourself and never look back.
I agree. They're like, I think that the growth mindset will help you, like just in general, though. If you're able to do that, learn, and just get better with the things like that, too. That's why I said you never know who you talk to at the gym, too. Like, it can be as simple as a variation of bicep curl,
Yeah,
like that thing could change your whole outlook on training because it works for you, it works for them, but it might not work for the third guy. You know what I mean? But those kind of things, and you also never know who you're gonna meet, and then throughout there, just like what they do in life and things like that too. So having a good growth mindset going into that will help you too. And like I said, that helps your discipline in the long run too. We were talking about structure earlier on in this too, and I think that will help you grow your structure in life because you're not going to be the same structure the entire time. Each one of them has got like tiers you pull off, whether it goes from like the high school to college to your first like working without any schooling at all, or if you went from high school to working at all, you might be a little ahead of the person that went to college doing this, whatever. But like it helps you pull these layers off, and we have kids. There's going to be another layer that you kind of pull through there, and the structures are all going to kind of switch for this that. Like, if you're able to grow your mindset with that, it's going to help you in the long run, and your discipline still going to be the one thing intact with all that, but it's going to look different through each stage of life,
a
you know
100%. I think that's crucial to remember is
yep.
that as long as you have discipline and you're acting with discipline and you're acting with intent of the discipline, your structure might not look, like you said, identical from when you were a college student working full time to now working full time and having other priorities in life, but you'll still show up for the things that matter and you'll still improve in the areas you want to improve because you remember why you're doing it and you remember that just because it's not easy doesn't mean it can't get done. And I think
Yep.
with that too, like the community that we hopefully are reaching and you guys that are listening and that we talk to every day, we want to be able to, have that accountability with you guys too. So definitely do not be afraid to reach out to us and tag us and let us know what are you working on this week? What can you be more accountable for? And what can you use and develop and build and grow this week that's going to help you continue to chase any goal that you have, even if it's not just fitness related, into the future.
I agree. I think like I'll touch base with mine since we're on the topic, like because then other people can kind of get their idea where I'm at. Like so, this last week I had just like a deload week. My family was here, went out to eat. Had a few drinks, things like that with them, and something just so I can enjoy my time with them. Let's talk about the balance we talked about earlier, and I think that getting back this week on everything that I need to, going into training, eating, and things like that will be my biggest thing for this week, keeping my discipline.
Yeah,
Because, like you said, you do have to have some balance. I don't get to
exactly.
see them as often, so.
Yeah, and I think to your point too, similar to you with this week for me coming back off a deload week, I owe it to myself to perform at a high level and to hold myself to a higher standard just to get back on that train track of going constantly up more again. So I mean, my goal this week is to just be fully aware and present of my time in the gym and utilizing it to my benefit so that way I can continue to develop and grow. And like
Yep.
we both kind of said, we want to hear from you guys too. So definitely Facebook comment on it, Instagram tag us on your stories, whatever that may be. Like we're a team. We're all a big community and we all want to be better and we all want to get better. And we really want to hear what you guys are working on, what you can improve on.
So we gotta tag our energy drinks for the day too, or tag what you guys are drinking too.
Yeah,
We like to see that.
do not quit doing that. That has been awesome. We love seeing all the different energy drinks that you guys are sipping on. Not only does it allow us to see like the new flavors that we might not know or the ones we might not have tried or it's been a while since we've tried, but it allows us to kind of get a glimpse into your guys' life and what you like and what you enjoy and what your routine has and what it contains. So we really do appreciate all of you doing it and encourage even more of you to continue to do it and try it just because it kind of makes our day a little more fun too. So Jared,
I
anything to
agree.
add for the end of this before we close her off here?
No, just really appreciate everyone's support and everything like that so far. A lot of feedback in person over socials for everybody about the first episode and everything like that. We're gonna keep working to get better quality with video and audio and stuff like that, obviously with it and stuff. So we're gonna keep moving forward that way, and just appreciate everyone reaching out, either topics or energy drinks that they want us to try and stuff like that too. We appreciate your engagement. Super pumped about we had 500 views on one video on Instagram. We got the award for that little thing that they sent us in our profile there. So stuff like that, really appreciate it. Follow us through even just finding the reels on Instagram and things like that, TikTok, and then liking and following us too. Always really appreciate that. And yeah, that's pretty much. I just really want to touch base on that because we, without everybody else helping us out, we wouldn't be doing this, right?
Exactly. And I will leave
So
you guys with the fact of motivation fades. Simply put, discipline is what's going to keep you in the game. You want to improve yourself. You want to improve your life. You want to improve your self-image. Show up for yourself. You owe it to yourself. The discipline's where it's going to be. Like I said, we encourage you guys all to pick one thing this week. Tag us. Do it. Let's see it. We want to be a part of it. And then we're going to tease you guys in the next couple of days about what next week's episode is going to be. But we're going to keep that a secret for now because it's going to be a little more interesting. I'm pretty pumped for it, though, Jared. I'm not going to lie.
I am too. Yeah. It's gonna be slightly different than a straight up normal pod, but it'll be a good one, that's for sure. Really, like I said, really drive it home. This like the motivation is, the more the hype we talked about in the beginning, and discipline is more of the habit. So as long as you guys find yours, maybe like everyone's different with time too. So like Asa said here, he was about he had that short, a little bit shorter than I did before I picked mine. Like so, everyone's different. Just give yourself some time. Don't feel like you're behind. Your discipline will come. Everyone's looks different, so don't ever like make everyone feel like you're behind them or above them or anything like that, because everyone's day to day is different. Everyone's life's different. That's what makes it all unique, makes it all special. But as long as you're getting in there and still making things happen for yourself and you're happy with it, that's what matters the most.
Exactly. All right. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning to the Caffeine Bros podcast. Jared, Caffeine Bros to the moon. We'll see you guys
Yes,
later.
sir.